Hello everyone, my name is Brian and you're watching Airsoft Nation. Airsoft is intriguing. It lets us unleash our imaginations, escape the confines of our homes, and equip ourselves with whatever tickles our fancy. Whether it's the thrill of weekend skirmishes, the intensity of remote milsim operations, or the pressure of high-stakes competitions, one thing remains constant: our penchant for using attachments that serve little practical purpose but amp up the aesthetics. Now, if any of the attachments I'm about to discuss bring you joy, go ahead and deck out your gear with all of them. Remember, Airsoft is about expressing yourself too. But if you have a tight budget, you can only purchase accessories that have practical uses, and you should really stay away from the ones on this list. Number 5. Visible lasers. Among the plethora of overhyped accessories commonly found adorning the guns of novice players, visible layers take the spotlight. I vividly recall my early days in Airsoft foolishly squandering my hard-earned cash on useless paraphernalia that collected dust. However, even back then, I possessed the foresight to avoid acquiring a visible laser. I mean, seriously, think about it. What practical purpose does it serve to mount a laser on your gun for daylight gameplay? It's about as sensible as wearing sunglasses in a pitch-black cave. Infrared lasers and similar devices hold some practical value. Pairing one with a well-designed MVG setup can truly elevate your performance, allowing you to dominate nighttime skirmishes and gain a significant edge in military simulation operations. However, the same cannot be said for those cheap laser-like contraptions you can snag off of Amazon for like $10 or less. You will see some individuals using IR lasers to indicate where they want their teammates to go. However, the lasers are typically mounted on the rifle itself, requiring the user to disengage their initial point of aim just to direct their teammates, which makes it troublesome. Also, many players inadvertently end up shining lasers into the eyes of fellow airsofters, which is more harmful than helpful in the game. If the argument in favor of lasers is to achieve more accurate shots, it raises the question: why aren't they commonly found on sniper rifle builds? After all, sniper scopes are designed precisely for that purpose. Additionally, the emergence of trace units in Airsoft renders visible lasers rather obsolete. Besides, lasers tend to give away your position, are prohibited at many fields, offer no significant advantages over a properly zeroed-in red dot sight, and again, they can pose a risk to your eyes. Now, I have to admit, they do add a stylish touch to pistols like the Mark 23, even though the laser included with the pistol itself is often considered practically useless. Number 4. Canted sights. Number 4 on our list is canted sights. These have found their place on the list of almost entirely useless attachments. Nowadays, you rarely come across them unless someone is specifically replicating certain builds or purely aiming for aesthetics. I understand the appeal, but in the realm of Airsoft, they simply don't work as intended. In reality, canted sights can serve as valuable purpose, especially when transitioning from long-range to mid-range or close-quarters engagements, or when optics malfunction. However, in Airsoft, their usefulness diminishes due to the nature of hop-up. Understanding how hop-up controls the backspin of BBs is crucial. Inadequate backspin causes BBs to fall short, while excessive backspin sends them soaring towards the heavens. Achieving the optimal balance for maximum range becomes challenging when using canted sights. Instead, you'll find yourself frustrated as BBs go astray, veering left and right, far from your intended target. Unless you intend to use canted sights exclusively in engagements within a sub-50-foot range, strongly advise against relying on them for performance-oriented gameplay. They simply don't deliver the desired results. It's a disappointing reality because canted sights do add a visually appealing touch to your Airsoft build, perhaps mounted on top or even in the side of your gun. Number 3. Bipod. Let's delve into the matter of bipods, which claim the number 3 spot on this list of useless attachments. Allow me to pose a couple of quick questions. How many of your guns truly require a bipod that weighs less than 10 pounds? And how often do you find yourself deploying a bipod during a 30-minute to hour skirmish game? I won't dwell on these questions when it comes to close quarter battles, CQB games, because in my 5 years of Airsoft experience, I have never witnessed anyone using a bipod in a CQB arena. To be fair, if I possessed a 20-pound M240 Bravo, a 16-pound M14 EPR, or a hefty full-size steel-constructed Barrett, I would concede that a bipod can indeed come in handy. After all, those firearms become quite burdensome when firing in an upright position. I, too, dislike the idea of my precious guns toppling over, risking damage to expensive sights or dangling box magazines. However, my skepticism arises when I see players strapping a $60 bipod onto a $160 5 to 6 pound G&G combat machine, or even lighter Lancing tactical rifle. It's difficult to shake the feeling that they may have squandered their hard-earned money on an accessory that provides little practical value in such scenarios. Indeed, the heavyweight replicas, select precision rifles, and display guns are the primary beneficiaries of the bipod attachment. These attachments truly shine when paired with some firearms like the DSR and the visually striking WA-2000. But when it comes to performance considerations, it's important to understand the trade-offs associated with using a bipod. The added weight at the end of the barrel can impact the speed at which you aim down the sight. While the effect may not be substantial, every ounce does contribute to the overall weight, and even seemingly insignificant increments can make a difference. It's a matter of recognizing that even small adjustments can accumulate and potentially affect your shooting experience. When it comes to experienced Airsoft veterans, the consensus seems to be that unless you have a super heavy gun and intend to use it in a stationary manner, utilizing a bipod can be challenging to fully exploit. This is primarily due to the fast-paced nature of Airsoft engagements, which often take place at relatively close ranges. In these scenarios, the need for extra stabilization, typically associated with marksman rifles, is not warranted, as the shooting distances and precision required in Airsoft do not typically demand it. Moreover, machine gunners who play a crucial role in providing suppressive fire and covering fire tend to prioritize mobility. Instead of relying on bipods, they often find better solutions in the form of sling support and barricade bracing to maintain stability while on the move. Grip pods, while an option, have largely fallen out of favor in the Airsoft community, with few players utilizing them nowadays. Absolutely, there's no judgment here for those who choose to use a grip pod or any other attachment. We all have our preferences and enjoy the freedom to customize our gear. However, when it comes to bipods, it becomes apparent that their primary appeal lies in aesthetics rather than practical functionality. Even players with heavier guns like the M249s and M60s and milsim operations prop their guns against windowsills or doors, rendering the bipods essentially unused. This observation strongly supports the notion that bipods are predominantly overlooked in practical gameplay situations. Number 2, suppressors. Indeed, it is noticeable that suppressors are quite common accessories in the Airsoft community. Many of these suppressors, however, are primarily chosen for their visual appeal rather than their practical functionality. It is rare to see them being used to protect extended inner barrels or as functional tracer units. Even I can admit to having a large G&G tracer unit purely for its aesthetic value, even though it was obtained for free and is missing its charger. The sheer size of some suppressors can make certain guns look impressive, but in terms of practical performance, their impact is often minimal. Consider the example of the HFC Mach 11, which is compact and lightweight. When a massive suppressor is attached to its barrel, the gun's size nearly doubles, yet the sound it produces remains unchanged. In Airsoft, these suppressors serve primarily as visual enhancements rather than significantly affecting the actual performance of the gun. It's important to note that in Airsoft, the sound of a gun is not generated by the muzzle blast of compressed air. Instead, it's the moving parts inside the firearm, particularly in gas blowback models that produce the sound. Consequently, the effect of a suppressor on altering the sound profile is limited. The SR-25 stands out as a prime example of suppressors that seem excessive in appearance. When attached to these rifles, the suppressors do little to enhance the functionality of the replica. Their primary contribution lies in aesthetics. It's worth mentioning the exorbitant prices that some people are willing to pay for these metal tubes, which may feature trademarks but lack the capability to be foam-filled. Now let's talk about the drawbacks when adding a heavy suppressor to the barrel of a gas blowback pistol. It's essential to understand that such an addition can adversely affect the performance of the firearm. The added weight puts pressure on the slide, resulting in increased friction against the outer barrel. Consequently, your gun is likely to underperform. This is precisely why lightweight tracer units have been developed. They screw on effortlessly, don't significantly increase weight, and serve a practical purpose. Again, just a disclaimer, I'm not advocating for the complete abandonment of suppressors or saying that you should feel foolish for attaching one to your airsoft guns. Rather, I'm highlighting that beyond the novelty of sound effects and aesthetic appeal, suppressors generally do not offer substantial noise reduction or suppression in airsoft. However, if you employ a foam-filled suppressor with an HPA gun or use one to conceal an extended aftermarket inner barrel protruding past the outer barrel, you're making a more practical and purposeful use of this accessory. Number 1. Bayonet. And now we come to the ultimate champion of uselessness in the realm of airsoft accessories, the bayonet. This solitary attachment claims the honor of being the most pointless addition to your arsenal, bar none. As you may have already realized, many attachments in Airsoft are primarily for show, serving as the finishing touches to certain builds. Even if a bayonet is attached to a weapon, it often goes unnoticed or disregarded during gameplay. Let's take a moment to reflect. When was the last time you witnessed someone actually utilizing a bayonet? Of course, we're not talking about strapping on a razor-sharp steel knife to the end of your barrel. Instead, it's typically a rubber knife affixed to M4s or AKs, occasionally seen at small-scale milsim events or skirmish days. Achieving a knife kill in Airsoft is already quite the accomplishment, as it sparks conversations that can last the entire day. However, how many of us can boast multiple bayonet kills, or even one? Bayonets can be mounted on various guns, including M4s, AKs, M14s, G36s, and more. Personally, I find them visually appealing on rifles like the M1 Garands, Mosins, and other World War II and World War I replicas, yet their practicality is largely limited to aesthetics. Safety kills and bang-bang rules commonly implemented in most fields and arenas render bayonets essentially useless. Now, if you're the type who loves doing close-quarters bayonet takedowns, by all means, go for it. Just remember to exercise restraint and tap your opponents gently. Anything more vigorous may land you in a heap of trouble, even with a harmless rubber knife.